I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm assuming you can all hear me. Yes? Okay. My name is Sunshine Carter. I'm the Interim Collection Development Officer and the Electronic Resources Librarian at the University of Minnesota Libraries. And today, the three of us are going to be talking about the transition, the transformation that we as libraries and a society are making towards open. We did have a fourth presenter, Stacey, who was unable to make it.
Tracy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tracy.
I'm here.
Yes, Stacey is here. Tracy is not, sorry.
I know.
Thank you for that correction, yes. So it will be just the three of us today. So when we first got together to talk about our presentation and kind of make a cohesive presentation, we talked about the elements that we really wanted to speak to you today about, and that we could both, or that we could all talk about and kind of compare our trajectories as we move. So we're going to be talking today about what we have done to transform our values, our communications, the way that we look at data, our collaborations, and then any pilots that we have been doing in the past few years. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have a clicker somewhere here. First, the University of Minnesota Libraries is an R1 institution in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and we have been kind of moving towards open slowly over the past couple of years, and really as this new wave of open access, as my colleagues and I like to phrase it, as this new wave is coming about, we've really been examining a lot of the things that we're doing and how can we support the open, this new open access movement. So one of the things for us is we've recently, in a committee, a collection strategic steering committee has really been looking at what are our values in our collection and our collection development. So this was something that we did collaboratively in the libraries, especially with those who work with collections, work in scholarly communication, and we basically tried to articulate our values. So we are in like a final draft version. I don't know if in your institutions, if your documents kind of have to go through a long, slow boat through lots of committees. So we're at a stage right now where we're really kind of firmed up where we talk about our value of sustainability and equity and openness and preservation. And so we've really tried to articulate. So this is something that we're hoping will have a forward-facing view to the outside world as well as internal, and something that we can use to gauge whether our future investments are worth our time and money. We're working also on an OA statement, and we've had another group, a larger group, kind of looking at open, and so we basically looked at what are we looking for in open, and we want to have a statement. I'll talk more about some of the other things we're doing, but really just examining what are we looking for when we want to invest in open access, and how can we evaluate that? We're perhaps going to make a rubric. We haven't gotten that far yet. And then eventually we want to have a communication plan that's not just internal but external, so that we can start working with our external stakeholders, faculty, committees on campus. So right now our communication has been mostly internal, and we have a lot of collections related committees in the University of Minnesota Libraries. We have scholarly communications, we have a collection management committee, this a collections strategy committee, and we have collections council. So all of these have a lot of people who have some interest and some feedback on the things that we do. So we've been talking about these in all of those groups, and And then we've been doing internal trainings to kind of refresh. We had open access training of our liaisons many years ago, but it's been a while since we've kind of revamped that. So we've done many trainings we've talked about current events, what's going on across the globe with transformative agreements. We've talked about our OA policy again, which we've had for quite a while. And so a lot of refreshers, and we're continuing to do that internally. And right now we're not doing so much external. We're doing kind of one-offs when someone asks us to present to a Senate a library committee meeting. And so those are more one-off, but we want to have more of a comprehensive outreach type. So that's in the works right now. For us, data, in order to move towards open or towards any kind of evaluative process, you need a lot of data. And the data, especially on the content that you're buying and the use. And so we've been really trying to look at the use beyond the vendor-provided reports that we get, that we're all familiar with. So we've used, it's taken us a lot of time. This is a dashboard that we created in Tableau. It took several months to create, gathering data in Scopus Pure. There's interlibrary loan information that you can't see. And this allowed us to really look at the use of our a particular vendor's journals, the use very broadly. So how many authors of ours are publishing? How many authors of ours are citing this journal in their publications? So this gives us a really good picture of the use, but it took a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of hair pulling to try to get this all into it. And if you've done any of this and didn't want to pay someone to do it, then you know. So it's really important to have this data, because otherwise I feel like we're flying blind trying to figure out where to go next. So in terms of collaboration, we've worked with some other institutions, with a society. We work with ACM, with a couple other institutions. We have also begun creating a questionnaire to send to any, mostly societies, but vendors who want us to invest in their open access initiative. So we sent out the questionnaire to our first vendor who wanted us to participate in an open access membership program, and they answered the questionnaire in less than 48 hours and gave it back to us, which was impressive. We have some edits and tweaks to the questionnaire, just because we realized our questions weren't clear enough. We were getting answers that weren't quite exactly what we were expecting. So, and then we also, the scholarly communication librarian and I are really fans of Subscribe to Open, and so we have been really looking at that, and whenever we see Subscribe to Open offers coming, really scrutinizing it to see if that's something that we can take up. And then lastly, we've been doing a few pilots. We've created an OA investment fund. That's new this year. We've put some money aside into that fund, and I think of it as like a nest egg or a snowball of some kind, where, because we know we might need to give a little bit more for open, the plan is to use that money to invest in new open access initiatives that we've never participated in, or to support something that's transitioning. So whether that's American journals or annual reviews or microbiology society, if we want to participate and we need a little bit more money, then we can use that to subsidize. And then we have a OA investment review team that we are kind of crafting a charge to figure out how do we've been getting so many offers in our mailboxes about investing in open. And since we subscribe to a lot of things, we need to look at those and see if those are something that we want to participate. So we're going to have a team, we're thinking, who's going to review these proposals twice a year so that we can kind of control the amount of time that we spend on reviewing these offers to subscribe to Open or to subscribe to this entity that supports Open. So that's what we're doing in Minnesota. So I'll let Curtis talk about Iowa State.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Curtis Brundy. I'm the AUL for Collections and Scholarly Communications at Iowa State. So again, I'm going to be following the same framework: values, communication, data, collaboration, and pilots. So the values piece is actually really, really important. It's something we've invested a lot of time in at Iowa State. If you think back, when we were just renewing, when we were just subscribing, when there weren't a lot of questions about what it is the library should be doing, these conversations about values were not quite as urgent. Well, now that we're doing new things, we're spending money in new ways, we need you to understand what we're doing. All of a sudden, values are hugely important. We need our stakeholder community on our campus to know why the library is doing what it's doing. So when we set out upon this, one of the first things we wanted to do is see what is it at our campus that we might actually be able to lean on that would give us some guidance on this direction, this open direction we're going in. We're fortunate to come. Iowa State is a public land-grant university, and our mission statement is to create, share, and apply knowledge to make Iowa and the rest of the world a better place. So right there in our mission statement is this idea that we should be sharing this knowledge that we're creating. So we have never talked about that mission statement in regards to scholarly communications and collections, and we are now. We talk about it all the time. And we talk about how we are aligning our collection management with the mission of this land-grant university. So 3 quick things I'm going to talk about that we also did push forward this conversation on establishing these values on our campus. One happened just before I got to Iowa State. We had kind of an open access activist faculty senate president the year before I got there, who pushed forward in maybe not, the exact way I would have counseled him moving it forward, but we got an OA resolution passed at Iowa State, and it says some good things. It recognizes that open access is important on our campus, and it was not a unanimous vote. There is some confusion about APCs, what it means endorsing this. Does this mean that all of a sudden authors are going to have to start paying for open access? So it created some confusion, but it really triggered an open access conversation on campus. So when I got there, one of the things we first did was move forward with signing on to OA 2020. And so we signed on to the OA 2020 expression of interest, I think, a year ago last spring. We took that through multiple stakeholders across the campus, and this is where we really started the conversation about managing this collections budget in a new way. No longer were we just going to do subscriptions. We were actually going to use this budget to incentivize this open world we want to move to. We were going to redirect subscription money where we can in alignment with our values to support openness. And we ended up taking that to the Faculty Senate Executive Board. We got a letter of endorsement from our Faculty Senate President to sign on to OA 2020. So that was a way to kind of have this conversation around values, take an action that was visible to the community, where we're kind of stepping out and saying, hey, this is what's important to the library, and then the Faculty Senate backed us up and said, yes, it's important to us too. And then the last thing we did just 3 weeks ago, we worked on it for over years. We developed journal negotiation principles. We weren't going for a manifesto. We were going for something practical that we could explain to people. So that's the image to the right. We've got 3 principles. We want to advance openness, we want transparency, and we want financial sustainability. And there's a little bit of text in there that you can read that kind of fleshes that out a little bit. We took that through movement communication. Here's our stakeholders. So when Sunshine's talking about all of her different library groups, well, we've got all of our different library groups. That's what's in blue. What's in green are all of our kind of external stakeholders. And we walk those principles through all of those groups. And we're not done with student government yet. Our student government is actually interested in drafting a resolution with us to endorse our journal negotiation principles as well, but we're not there yet. But a lot of work, and I will say, like, the OA 2020 expression of interest, doing these types of principles, introduce a process and a vehicle by which you can carry something out to your campus and have a conversation around taking an action and doing something. And so when you think about having a meandering conversation with somebody about values and openness, that doesn't work. But when you can kind of guide it by having something that you can take action on at your campus, I think it works really, really well. Now, we are not perfect at communication. We just launched a new scholarly communication communication and collections website this September, because those two worlds have been totally separate at our campus. They're all underneath my position. And yet, to the outside world, like scholarly communication, we're totally separate from collections. And so in this website, we're trying to bring those worlds together so we can explain what it is we're doing when we're trying to, we've got a $12 million budget. There's a lot of transparency on our end on what we're doing. We're trying to do that, but we're not there yet. And we are not using our liaison library. That's the other thing I wanted to mention. We have these folks that are established on campus with relationships, and it's been very difficult to get them up to speed and figure out how to deploy them to kind of support what we're doing. So we still have a lot of work to do on communication. Okay, for data, I think, there's so many of these open access sessions at Charleston, so people are hearing about the data piece all the time. And I feel like I'm from Las Vegas, but I feel like in Iowa, I'm living in a data desert at Iowa State, because we did not have the skills to do this type of stuff. So this is a slide from Matt Wilmot from the UC, and he told me I could use it as long as I plugged his session this afternoon. He will be talking more in detail on the types of analyses and modeling that he's doing through the CDL for the UC campus. But his work, we can't even approach what he's doing, but we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to model our publishing, enter into these agreements and these negotiations, confident that it's taking us in a way that's going to minimize unintended consequences and have the outcomes that we're looking for. And we're not there yet, but we recognize the need, and our latest strategy is to try and pull together some libraries. We're in the Greater Western Library Association, maybe find some libraries there that will jointly fund a position to live in Willa to kind of do this type of analysis for us. Because we don't have enough of this work for a full-time position at Iowa State, but I think we can share it between 5 libraries. That would work very well. Okay, collaboration. I actually think the most exciting thing going on right now is the collaboration happening in our space. We've got libraries working with libraries that never worked before. Like, I've never worked with the University of Minnesota before, but now we've got a great collaboration there and good partners. We're working closely with MIT, the UC, with Carnegie Mellon. So libraries working with libraries, societies working with societies, and libraries working with societies. Sunshine mentioned briefly the group of libraries that work with ACM. That was a great process. That was like 8 months working directly, a handful of libraries with the society to try and find an open model that would work for everybody. And I'm going to quickly mention just these 2 groups. So Society Publishers Coalition, a lot of you probably are familiar with them, but that group has sprung up in the wake of Plan S, and they've got 50 societies that have signed on. And what they want to do is try and work together to find an orderly path forward into this open future. They're self-organizing, and I just think it's fantastic. And I think it would be great to see something like that take root in the U.S. I feel like our societies need to do a little more like what SPC is doing. And then the last group I'm going to mention is TSPOA. That's a group I'm involved with. This came out of the OA meeting in Berkeley a year ago. It's got librarians, collection, and Skullcom people. It's got publishers on there. Sarah Rui from PLOS is on there. Cameron Nave, who's now at CERN, is on there. And what we recognized is that we need to maintain, in this transition, diversity with our publishers. We need to do everything we can to ensure that. And the most vulnerable population in this transition are probably the small self-publishing societies. And so as a group of stakeholders, we wanted to figure out what we could do to support and help them move forward successfully into this open world. So if you are not aware of these 2 groups, we're collaborating with SPC on a series of webinars. The first one's going to be in a couple of weeks. And it's a 3-webinar series. You can go to tspoa.org to sign up for it. And you're going to hear from societies, you're going to hear from libraries, you're going to hear from folks who are expert in these open models, and talking through what is the situation of the societies and how can we help them be successful moving forward. And then for pilots, I think we all know we're in the season of the pilot in this open world right now. Like this skateboarder, we got pilots that are getting ready to drop in. We've got pilots that are under consideration. Iowa State's doing a lot of these. We've got transformative agreements with the Reuters and RSC. We're doing subscribe to open. We are actively experimenting in this space to see what works for us, to learn, to try out workflows, and we will be doing more of this. I think there is a window of time in which libraries and societies can work together to try some of these new things and see what might actually work for us. And we will be doing more of that. I think the pilots right now are just really, really important. And whether you're a publisher or you're a library, I would say if you're not doing some of this, you don't have to take on existential risk to do some of these small agreements and kind of get your feet wet trying out some of these open agreements. So I would encourage you to do that. Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Stacey Burke from the American Physiological Society. I don't feel like they're working against me because I'm the only society here, but they said all great stuff leading up, really leading to the collaboration that I'm feeling. I'm feeling the love from for society, so that's really great. This was the easy slide because we're a mission-based society, and so it's not easy to get. Okay, good. Because we have a mission, I've always associated with our society, unlike Curtis, who is now tying it to scholarly communications. Our goal is to advance scientific discovery, really, and understand life and improve health. It's very simple. We just actually changed this to simplify it because it was really long and nobody's reading it anyway. But we've got a new executive director, and he's really trying to motivate the society in general and the science in general. So I took a few key points of his speech that he's kind of been going on tour to all of our members. And I think it's really relative to what we're talking about today, is really getting the science out in front of everyone, and that's what OA is going to do. We want to enhance the brand of physiology. It's not just basic, it's also clinical and translational. And I think we really need it to be essential to our scientific researchers, and getting it open where everybody can read it is going to help with that. And promoting scientific excellence. I was having a conversation the other day that somebody said nobody really wants to take the leadership in OA, and I think that that's right, but I think we have to. Cautiously. And I wish there was a switch, but I think that that's scientific excellence. Really, we want the readers to get the access to the research. And of course, the ultimate thing, my role is sales and marketing, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have to talk about business models. And I think that everybody knows that, Curtis says the unintended consequences, and Plan S, I think, is a great idea, and it's wonderful, and I support it, but we're mission driven, so the reason behind us is to reinvest back in the science. And so the money that we get, it goes right back into the scientific community, that hopefully goes into furthering scientific research, goes into our publication, and then it's just a vicious circle. It's not vicious, it's wonderful. But the money that we get goes right back in. So how do we kind of remain revenue neutral? Communication, that is Cartoon Stacey. We don't have as many, bureaucracy groups to kind of go in front of as these guys were talking about before, which is good and advantageous when you want to do things really quickly, like move into a pilot. So, obviously it's the library customer is my first step. So I worked with Curtis a lot, and a lot of the groups he's talking about to just say, what do you need? I know what I need. But how can we work together to get a proposal that works for you and works for me? And then I have to present it to management, which I've had an interesting, I only started here in April, so I'm moving fast, but we had, our publisher had left after 10 years, and we've been in the search for a publisher, and our executive director comes by it honest and says, I know nothing about publishing, so I was able to get things moving fast. And then someone with knowledge came on board, which I'm very grateful for, because she's going to, guide. Her name is Colette Bean, and she came from Wiley. So she has 26 years experience, and she's going to be looking at the overall OA structure and helping me with how I can do these pilot. But it was kind of I got to tell a group that didn't know anything, and then I had to tell a group that did know everything. And then the internal communication is really, these are the people I'm going to need to cheerlead this movement going on, and know that I'm not flipping tomorrow. I'm taking baby steps. Everybody's very, very cautious. Societies in general, I think, tend to be very careful, and they want news attention, but they don't want news attention. So it's there's some convincing there. And then I'm along with Sunshine. We haven't done, this is the external communication. You're welcome. You're in the premiere. So we will be working on this going forward, where we'll have, I think you mentioned annual reviews. They've done a phenomenal job at promoting what they're doing. I think at Royal Chemical Society as well. So we'll be doing more of that and promoting it to the library and community. Data. This is the most simple way I can present. I think Curtis' slide is more of what we're dealing with. And then Sunshine, I want that the model of Tableau, but maybe do it in less than 8 months. But I was at a session yesterday with Web of Science, and they were describing exactly what I'm dealing with. So no, Batman is not an author, although I'm hoping. But it really, we're taking a whole bunch of systems and trying to match up. So, you know, our submission system is EJ Press, and we're taking all the author input data. So they're all putting in their manual data, tagging their society or their organization, and matching it to our database, which is personified to our institutional customers. And it's not pretty. And then we take another step and we try to say, okay, those that submitted with their Gmail account, but they're really still tied to the organization, and it's University of Minnesota, UMin, you know, and so Web of Science actually was talking yesterday, and I raised my hand asking if they're selling it, but they said that they've got a like a set of university names that they're able to tag, and they're working with universities to say, you know, are these campus part of what you do, especially the ones that have different names. So I am outsourcing, unlike Sunshine. There is a team of 3 people on my team, and we're not part of the publishing team. We're actually part of the sales and marketing team. And the publishing side is pretty large, but we're really just taking it outside to say, how can you help us determine stuff? So I use Delta Thing to say, here's our 3-year data. Tell me what, what's the range of APC? If we were to flip tomorrow, what are we doing? What could we do? And it's double what our APCs are now. I mean, I think that most publishers will have that. I think that's actually reasonable compared to some other publishers I've talked to. But we also want to do a sliding scale because, again, there's not the switch that if we go to open access tomorrow, that's an easy math equation, right? But it's really the slow transition that we're talking about. And it's not going to stop, right? This continuous engagement, and we talk about transparency. We really have to be transparent with our librarian community to make sure that we're not double dipping. That cursed term. But the more open we go, what does that subscription look like? And we really have to be fair, so we have to measure it against subscription fee versus our OA output. Collaboration. Again, I'm feeling the love. He talked about societies. We're also partnering with them. They mentioned ACM. Scott Delman did a great presentation about tiered structure for APC models. And it's really, the more output and readership you have, the higher fee you pay. It makes sense, but they really did it in a very transparent way. And so after his presentation, I said, can I just steal everything from you? And he was open and gave us his model, and it was great. So we're toying with that. This SSPA, I bring it up because it wasn't successful. It does exist, but it is an effort towards societies joining together. And this was more from the author standpoint, where they said, our researchers need to know that they need to submit to our societies. We're valuable research. We need to make sure that they know we're driven by science, and to make them aware of that. Talk about the libraries. I'm obviously with a great esteemed panel here, and I can't say enough about how much guidance they've given us. Again, I've got 3 people on my team. We're doing what we can, but Curtis mentioned the transitioning scientific publications, society publications. I didn't know about it until I had like 3 conversations with him. And I said, wait, this exists? That's great. So this open public forum is also the University of California. If you haven't checked it out, they have all these different tools. Curtis, I have a question for you on your model, so I'll wait. But I think that this is all accessible for everyone, and I think learning from the community. My fellow publishers, I'll tell you who I'm going to be copying from when I promote. It will be Royal Chemical Society. I think did a really great job. We're all, reading about the Wiley Agreement. We should all know what works for larger institutions may not work for smaller, but at least we're aware of them. And then the other plethora of information. Again, if nobody knows this information power, I should have put the URL there, but they highlight 26 different business models that everybody's doing, which is really reassuring to me because my publisher said, well, I want one model for every customer. I said, well, me too. If you figure that out, let me know. But, this one size doesn't fit all. But the Scholarly Kitchen, they're constantly covering this content, so keep up on that. So pilots are cute, but pilot is really what I'm about to launch. And Curtis said I could say it's him, so it's Curtis. And I think he said it well, that you don't really have to, I'm not biting off more than I can chew, right? I'm starting small, I'm engaging with librarian community. We really didn't have an account development program, so even talking to librarians is a step in the right direction for APS. The read, I don't think this is mind-blowing for anyone. Cost-efficient read, a unique transition discount, and we want you to publish more OA, but we want to publish more OA, right? And we really need to see what that scene is going to look like and how that, affects our revenue and income. Back to the data I mentioned before, we're going to have to modify this over time and really analyze it and talk about where it's moving. I did it based on an initial 10% uptake, and I would be pleased if that happened within the first year, and that's really what we're trying to do. We're launching a fully OA journal in 2020. It's a high-level journal, so it's really going to be at the top of the research chain, but I don't know if we'll count that in. But we just have to have continued evaluation. And then this last part is really for the societies alone. I mean, this is the existence of societies, our raison d'etre is for our members, right? But if we're not having members, then what's the point? We really need to represent a community. And authors are members, researchers are members, though they should be. So the statistic I throw around internally is that our member base, 65% of them are submitting with our journals. That's great, so that's working backward. But the other way around, it's only 8% of our author database are actually members. So we've got a lot of work to do. So it's not, and I think that OA and getting ourselves out in front are really going to help. So it's going to do everything that the executive director wants to do. So we'll be giving a one-year membership for those that submit and are authors with us, and then it's on us. We have to engage them and make sure that they see the value of the membership. I don't know what to do with the slides, but I don't want mine up there.
I think we have 7 minutes for questions. And I'd be very curious to hear what's happening at other societies or other libraries. It's not a question. Yes.
I can repeat it for you.
So when you Laura, you when you mentioned the initial uptake only 10% OA could you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Sure. So again, it's the sliding scale. So what I priced the APCs, so the math was, here's what he's published his community has published in the last 3 years. So I said, we're going to assume that that's who's going to publish each year. So we'll take that, and the APC fee for that is going to be based on if 10% of if we increased our OA output by 10%. I know, it's kind of, we had lots of conversations about explaining my math. So, that's saying that we're going to get more OA, and so I'm giving you this APC fee, but it's also affecting the read fee. So I'm giving a significant discount on the read fee, but I'm having him pay more in an APC to go on OA. So it evens out in a way. And again, his society or his university isn't a high output for us yet. But what we've got is plans to really market it to the community and say, we're part of this program. I want to do some site visits and talk about how they can publish with us. Yeah.
I'm curious about how you are looking at your APC fees, and do they go solely to support the cost of the publication, or are they also supporting your society? Because that's a conversation that we've been having a lot around what should our collection dollars, and I'm Kate McCready from the University of Minnesota, like sunshine, but what should our collection dollars really be supporting? Should they be supporting more than just that publication?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I wish I had the exact equation, but the answer is yes to both of them. So, first of all, I look at APC's annually. That was your first question, just because it's just part of the necessary end game, right? We need money to publish. So forget about what the society does. We have a publication staff. There's many people out there defending it costs money. I think we all know it costs money to produce a journal. And then the other element is, any of our surplus or revenue really goes into all of our programming as a society. But that being said, the business model doesn't have to be only based on what we're doing with subscriptions. We really need to diversify, and one of the things our executive director did was really made a C-level suite, and so they're making a C-level publisher, a C-level operating officer, finance, and engagement and partnership, and and people in the society have been there a while said, oh, we're going to be acting like a business. And I said, good. We really need to be wiser about what we're doing as so we're trying to diversify our revenue, but that will take a longer game.
And I would just add to that, I've been having a lot of conversations about this as well, and I feel like, we will be challenged to solve, one problem in the next, 3 to 5 years, like successfully moving these societies to open access models, right? If we're also putting upon them that they have to stop, underwriting all these other activities from this publishing money at the same time, I think it's a big ask, and I think it's probably too big of an ask. And so what I've been kind of pushing back on some of my library colleagues who really feel like they can't move into these agreements with these societies until there's an accounting of the money and they're not going to pay for this, they're not going to pay for that. I just want to say, how are you dealing with the commercial publishers? Because you're not tackling that the same way. You should probably not be picking a fight with like the APSs and the ACMs. The ones that are trying to engage with us, the ones that are trying to be good actors in the space, but bringing this up and having a conversation about it, raising it as an issue, but then perhaps we do tackle the open access piece, knowing that that's a good and a step in the right direction, and then we figure that one out a little farther down the road. I hate to say that, but I also don't want to treat the societies in a way that, I don't know, if I want to wrestle with somebody, I'm going to wrestle with Elsevier and I'm going to wrestle with Wiley over their profit margins more than investing in what a society's doing with their extra money to support the science in their discipline. So.
He picked a fight with me, he won. No, but he's been really giving a lot of guidance because, we're in it for other details too. We want more submissions, right? Like, let's be honest, I want everybody to know about American Physiological Society and that we have these journals. And because we're not Elsevier, we need to engage our librarian community because, I always say you're our biggest cheerleaders. I was at SLA many years ago and you're my people. And I don't just, say that. It's that we need you guys to understand that we have good content. And if our content's not good, but it's a numbers game. The more content we have coming into us and the more we're opening, the more exposure we're getting, the more we're going to be able to compete better with Elsevier's and Sprinkers. And they're great.
We spend a lot of money with them, so I think we have a couple more minutes. Yeah.
I'm Lori Lupiga, and I'm with the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. I just have a question in terms of how do you go about identifying who you're going to partner with to do these pilots? Like, we're not a big university, but we're a heavy research-intensive university. So I'd love to explore like a pilot. APS journals are heavily used on our campus, and but I just don't know how to go about it. It seems like all the information that comes out, these deals are already established with a large university. So I was just curious how that comes about.
I won't answer on behalf of the library, but I would just look at your output, right? And so what you feel more comfortable with, right? So if there's, we're an easy target because we're probably a smaller output. I'll be honest with you, because we're a smaller publisher, right? So I think going to meetings like this and seeing who are engaging and who want to do more pilots is a step. But you did so much data analysis internally, so.
I would look at where your faculty are publishing and also look at those things that you're also subscribing to. To the things that you subscribe to and that you publish in and that are not super crazy expensive, maybe to start with, and reach out and see. I don't know, that's my suggestion.
I think that's a good suggestion. suggestion, and you all are another signatory of OA 2020, and I think something we can do maybe on our OA 20, and this isn't going to help everybody else, but we have a monthly call with that group, and we should talk about this, like where are the possible pilots, that we could be exploring. But I think all of that was good advice. It sounds like Stacey's probably looking for another library to talk to as well, so she would maybe
Lev Rickards from Santa Clara University in California. We're about to embark on a 1 or 2 year process of just talking a lot to faculty and stakeholders across campus. You mentioned sort of not letting those conversations just be all over the place, and it sounded like you were saying that OA 2020 was a particular way to focus those conversations. But I wonder, for both of you, what was your experience in structuring those conversations and making them really valuable?
Yeah, and I will just say real quick, using, like the principles, and asking, faculty senate to take action on something, it helps to focus it. You can't just come with something that's fully ready to go and just get a sign off. It's really about the conversation, but I like things that they can take action on. So OA 2020, signing the expression of interest, endorsing the journal negotiation principles, I think those have worked really well for us. And I'm excited that students are so excited and they want to discuss it in student government, which took me by surprise, but that's awesome.
And we're working on our communication plan, so I'll tell you later how that goes. But I mean, I would envision first us kind of just, brainstorming where do we want to go and how do we get there. So what are the steps and the people that we need to get on board in order to get to the end where everyone says, yes, that's what we want to do. So just kind of planning how you're going to communicate well before, so.
We also were talking about this. Sunshine had talked about a survey that she had done. I know the questionnaire for the whole district, by the way, I filled out in 24 hours. But I know that, reaching out to your researchers and asking them what they want, and, was that something that you had done in step as well?
Yeah, I would say that we've had faculty reach out to us, a few of them who are in publishing or working on publishing committees in their societies, with the question of, what do you know about Plan S, they asked, have you heard of this? We're really worried and we're having all these conversations, can you come and talk to me about this? So some of us have been having those conversations and liaisons, hearing about it and kind of rolling those into the conversations. It's kind of like an information gathering session. When someone says that, you're like, yes, I will talk to you, and that's, mostly because you want to hear from their perspective. And so we've developed a few kind of good casual relationships that when we run into these faculty, say like, oh, have you seen the SPA Ops report? Have you seen the MIT framework? And then they send stuff to us too lately. So it's good to at least know that those might be some advocates that we could bring into our plan to get everyone on board.
I think we're in time.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.